everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to another episode of Millie's Bayside Chats, where we are live streaming to bring some calm to the chaos of your PCS. Every week, we're going to interview a duty station expert, so we will get the dish on PCSing there. We're going to talk commute, schools, neighborhood, climate, culture, and answer all your burning questions, so be sure to bring them. And also, we'll chat about best practices, wish I'd known, and more. So be sure to tune in each week, even if it's not a duty station that you're headed to, because you never know. This week, I am super excited to introduce you guys to Alison Wisdom, and we are going to be chatting all things Oahu. So if you are headed to Hawaii, this is your chance to ask all your questions. I know sometimes it might seem like PCSing to potentially another country, even though it's still ours. But we want to try to help break down some of the stressful decisions and the unknowns for you today and give you the chance to, once again, just ask your questions. So first things first, I want to give you guys a little bit of housekeeping. If you would like to interact with our broadcast, and we would love for you to, I'm going to ask to go ahead and click the link in the post copy that you'll see somewhere near my face. There's a little link that will give you permission to engage with the broadcast, and it'll bring you right back to the broadcast. So don't worry about getting lost in Facebook. It'll shoot you right back to our Facebook Live. So go ahead and click that link, and it's the only time you'll have to do it, and you will be set for every future live stream. Also, we would love to know where you are watching us from. So go ahead and drop your duty station in the comments, or maybe where you're headed. That would be cool too, because there are several installations on the island of Oahu. So if you're headed there, go ahead and drop in the comments where you're headed, and we'll try to focus on a specific area for you. And if you catch the replay, go ahead and throw #replay in the comments so we can circle back and welcome you later on. So that's enough about this and me. Let's go ahead and bring on Alison Wisdom. Hi, Alison. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Kelly. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk about the beach because it is cold and gray here. I almost wore like a little, a sarong and a flower in my hair, but I'm too cold, so I didn't do it. You guys, so Alison is she's actually on the MILLIE team. She is our director of agent intel, which is a product that we offer for real estate agents who are serving you, military clients. But she is joining us today with all of her expertise from her days as a real estate agent in Hawaii. And if anyone notices or recognizes our little celebrity, I have to plug this really quickly, and then I will let you introduce yourself. Have you guys caught Hawaii Life on HGTV? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Alison appeared in several of those episodes. So you guys, she is legit. She's the real deal. She knows the island. She has tons of expertise to share with you. And she's a celebrity. So we are so lucky to have her. Thanks for joining us, Alison. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm an Army veteran, first of all. I have owned a couple of different businesses over the years. I became a realtor in 2011 in Maryland. And then due to my husband's job, DOD, we moved to Hawaii in 2012. I got my real estate license out there and spent, most of my time helping military families PCS to Hawaii. So I've lived the lifestyle and have a lot of great things to say about Hawaii and have a lot of experience helping people get there. So
awesome. Okay.
Happy to be with you today.
So what do you think, let's jump right in. What do you think are some of the biggest hurdles mentally? So right now people are starting to get orders, right? Like this is the time. And you're like, if you're like me, you're like, holy crap, Hawaii, where do you even start? So what are some of the biggest things that you would like to say to people to help alleviate a little bit of the anxiety there?
Sure. So, well, I think, first of all, one of the biggest hurdles is that you're really looking from so far away, mm-hmm. and you're looking at somewhere that is really different. I mean, yes, it's part of the United States, but the culture in Hawaii is a lot different from the mainland. So I think the biggest thing is just being open-minded about where you're going, and finding a couple of people to rely on in your journey. Mm-hmm. So I think you can go down a lot of rabbit holes on the internet, and ones that aren't necessarily productive when it comes to Hawaii and not really accurate. So, for example, when we were moving out there, I had a best friend from high school who was already there.
Perfect.
So he was my person who I asked a lot of questions to, got a lot of recommendations from. And, people who are living in Hawaii and embracing the lifestyle are generally very open and have a lot of time. So this friend, even though we hadn't talked a lot since high school, she was very open to my phone calls and very, she met us at the airport and brought us.
With a lei?
Yes.
I have to do that once in my life. I just want to do that.
Absolutely. Always meeting at the airport with a lei. But, we were moving with our cats, and she brought us the starter litter box and the starter, kitty litter. She knew what we were going to need right when we got off the plane. So, finding somebody just to talk to and ask the questions to, there are plenty of military folks out there. You probably know somebody. And the realtors there, we are always talking to people who are PCSing in. So particularly the realtors who deal with a lot of military clients. I know I felt when we were moving there, we were deciding between renting and buying and trying to figure out neighborhoods and things like that. And it can be hard to get people's attention when you're not there yet, because we do get a lot of phone calls from people who just really wish they could move to Hawaii. So, from a real estate kind of lead perspective, I would have calls about hey, when I get this settlement, I'm going to move there,
they're just dreaming. Yeah.
So I think it's important when you're starting to talk to people to say, I have orders.
Right.
I'm coming in June, and I need a place to rent or buy, and I need to compare the two options, just to kind of cement your seriousness about that, or where you are in your process. And to recognize also that when you start talking about rentals in Hawaii, you're competing with year-round rental market of different kinds of rentals.
Right.
So you'll find rentals online that are temporary rentals, so vacationers. You'll find rentals online that are seasonal for people who are kind of snowbirds, right? A lot of people come from Alaska or Canada or the Pacific Northwest, for a season. So it can be hard for somebody who wants to rent to dig through all of that.
Yeah.
And I'd say that the advertisements are generally accurate. The people putting up those advertisements, if they say no pets, they mean no pets. If they say,
they can say there's so much competition, they can be firm about stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For example, I just put a listing up in Kailua this past week for sale, and we had somebody contact us on Facebook and ask, would they be willing to rent it? No, it actually is for sale.
Yeah.
People are PCSing out themselves. They don't want to leave a rental behind.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And that, and not to say don't ask, but have realistic expectations. It's not a negotiable kind of market.
Yes.
So much demand.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about the decision to buy or rent. So let's say, I've got orders, and first I'm going to have to adjust to the sticker shock. Definitely. But let's break that down a little bit. Who does it make sense to buy? Talk me through that.
Okay. So I'll say when I get clients who are coming from San Diego or Japan or even Pacific Northwest or DC, they're always a bit more acclimated to the price point and more open to buying.
But let's say Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, North Carolina, let's just say.
Yeah. I think people from Kansas are always really mad at me.
I bet.
Yeah. Because, there is no 5,000 square foot house on a football field for $300,000.
With all the air conditioning and the privacy and
Yeah. So it does take some adjustment to the price point and willingness to adjust your lifestyle as well. But the flip side of that is, the market has been very good for the past 7 years or so. And I've never had somebody sell and not take a good chunk of money with them.
Right.
Not that that's
flip around the Kansas example, right? So you leave Hawaii and you're able to buy 2 Kansas houses or something. Yeah.
Well, exactly. I have a client who moved from Hawaii. They bought a mid-priced townhouse in Hawaii, and they walked away with about $55,000 in their pocket and put a really nice down payment on a house in Georgia, and that was their dream house.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So. And you also have a very high VA loan limit in Hawaii. So, you may be thinking, well, I don't know what I can get for the VA loan limit, but the loan limit is adjusted for the market.
Isn't that the highest one? Isn't it the highest limit is in Hawaii? Yeah. Or Honolulu, right? Yeah. So talk to me about a couple of different bases, maybe the ones you're most familiar with, and then what are some common areas that people want to maybe start focusing in on and why?
Okay. All right. So there is the windward side of the island, which if you look at the island of Oahu, it's kind of, I don't know how this is going to go on the camera, like diamond shaped like this, right? Mm-hmm. And so kind of the northeast part of the diamond shape is the windward side of the island. So that's Kailua, Kaneohe, Waimanalo.
And tell us why we call it that.
Because the wind comes from that direction over the mountains.
Yeah.
So, toward the mountains. Yeah. So yeah, go back to your like 4th grade meteorology unit and learn about like rain shadows. So
and all of the like tectonics, like plate tectonic. Y'all, I'm gonna geek out, but it's like the floor, the crust of the earth is going down in the ocean ridge, and it's an archipelago. So anyway, but it's cool because but it's important to know, because if you start talking to people about Hawaii, you're gonna hear things like ways.
Windward and leeward. And, yeah.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. So that side of the island has Kaneohe Bay, the Marine Corps base there. So it is beautiful. It is known for its world-class beaches. It is rainier. It is a little cooler. And it is expensive. So Kailua is one of the most expensive zip codes on the island. So living in Kailua, you can commute to downtown. You can commute to Pearl Harbor, Hickam.
Downtown being Honolulu.
Honolulu.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. You can go out to the Marine base. A bit longer commute is Schofield and Wheeler. So, yeah, those are all doable. Then downtown Honolulu is great. I have a lot of people who like to live downtown Honolulu if they're single, if they want to be where the action is. If they just want a little condo where they can really explore from, great. And then the west side of the island, west of Pearl Harbor and west of Hickam, that's Ewa Beach, Kapolei. Those areas are they feel more comfortable if you're coming from the mainland, in that the housing style is very familiar. So you'll have double wall construction. You'll likely have a garage. You'll have a house that feels more like a mainland house. So it's a lot of like planned community housing.
Okay.
It's fairly contemporary, built like most of it since the 90s. So.
Okay. And then you just mentioned another thing that I'm going to tease out. So double walled construction versus not. So what is a typical island house? Like what would one expect to see?
Yeah. A lot of the housing stock on the island was built in the 60s. So a lot of those homes are single wall construction, which is essentially plywood or a piece of board, right? And so it was funny, we moved into our first house in Hawaii, and my husband put up a picture on my daughter's wall. He nailed it up and put it up, and then we went around to the other side, which was the living room, and realized, and then it came out the other side. Like, oh yeah,
wow.
wall. Right.
Is energy efficiency a concern then, as far as utilities and whatnot? Or talk to me about that.
So we lived on the windward side, and we did not have air conditioning nearly the whole time we lived there. And those houses are not really meant to be energy efficient. They're meant to let the breeze blow through. So at the same time, so we were coming from suburban Maryland, and we paid about the same in utilities in Hawaii as we did in Maryland, but we were running less stuff in Hawaii. Like we didn't have heating and air.
Okay. Yeah.
So our budget remained pretty much the same there, but we just weren't using as much. So it was more expensive, but overall it was the same.
The one thing that stuck out to me when we were doing our research for the installation guides for that area was you leave everything open, which sounds idyllic. I mean, it's so cool. You've got your lanai and, the porch and all this, but you also have geckos and critters.
Geckos are good. You just have to realize that geckos are good.
They eat the mosquitoes, right? And they eat the other critters. So that's another thing to kind of wrap your head around. If you're from the Southeast, like I am, we try very hard to keep the critters out because there are so many. But in Hawaii, it's kind of something you embrace because that's life. They aren't going anywhere else. They're on this island with you. So
they're eating bad bugs.
They are. Big, wonderful. Scary, probably bugs, right?
There's only one scary bug in Hawaii, in my opinion.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And that's a centipede.
What is it?
A centipede.
Oh, ew. Are they poisonous?
They hurt a lot when they
weird.
bite you. Yeah. So, and fortunately, they're not that common. You won't accidentally run into one usually. I was never bitten by one. I never had. I had one in my house one time. So. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
And I've lived in the Southeast too, so I'm used to the big cockroaches.
Right. Water bugs.
So
palmetto bugs.
Palmetto bugs. Yeah.
Well, while we're on the topic, I guess we could segue into pets. So let's talk about getting Fido or Fifi over to Hawaii.
Yeah. So they actually just relaxed those rules back in August. It used to be much more difficult to get there. So I think after this, maybe I can drop a comment into into the post, and I'll leave the link there for the new rules and the process. So a lot of what you might read online, if you go looking now, might be old because they just changed the rules in August.
Okay. Yeah, no, that would be that'd be awesome. So as in, what do you mean by relax? Like is there a quarantine or was there a quarantine?
Yeah. So, Hawaii is a rabies-free state, and they aim to keep it that way. So it used to be that you had to plan very far in advance to get your pets all of the right examinations and vaccinations and tests to be able to come to Hawaii and get directly released from the airport. So, with military, you might not have had your orders that far in advance. You might not have had that much planning time or realized that this was an issue in time. So
it's also kind of challenging to fly in general with pets during the summer because of the heat.
It can be. Yeah, it can be. We were fine. We came on United at the time, and but with different things that have happened with airlines carrying pets in the meantime, just check the airline's rules and make sure that you know what to expect when you show up. You'll have to go to the airport earlier to take your pets. You'll have to have an approved container to take your pets, and you'll have to pay for it. So it's a budget issue for sure. And remember that you have to pay to bring them home too. So Oahu does have a bit of a problem with people coming to the island and then not wanting to take their pets home or not being able to. So, yeah.
It's heartbreaking. Oh, that's
but the waiting periods on that for the rabies testing and vaccinations have been reduced to 30 days. So I think that makes it a lot easier now to know in advance and to prepare so that you can pick up your pets directly from the airport.
Yeah, and isn't it you can keep them quarantined like in your home as long as you have a vet note? Is that it? Is that right?
I don't know if that part has changed. I had read that they reduced the timelines from 120 days and 90 days for the test and the vaccination. They reduced those timeframes down to 30 days.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
That was, I used to be way before kids. I had 2 dogs and really it was just the one dog. And my husband was telling me like, hey, should we try for Hawaii? Like, I don't know, we're young. Let's go do it. I actually shut him down because I didn't want to quarantine my dog. Isn't that so sad? Like, I wish I'd known better. Like I was a little bit scared too, I think, to do that. But then we thought, we've got our whole lives, whatever. But yeah, it was so I'm really glad to hear that they've relaxed it a little bit. Is that for just military or is that for everyone?
No, that's island-wide.
Awesome.
That's for everyone.
Cool. Okay, well let's, I'm dying to hear about traffic because we spent some time on traffic the other day in our DC chat, and I know it's just a little different. So let's hear your take on what to expect for traffic.
Yeah, well, I mean, on the plus side, if you're sitting in traffic, you're usually looking at something beautiful.
True. Very, very true. Everybody's so happy and chill. And
there's a lot of kind driving in Hawaii. That is something that was really, actually very hard for me to get used to.
Coming from Maryland, yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I'm used to driving in the DC area where it's just totally dog eat dog.
Yep.
The one thing that I really had to get used to was pedestrians.
Huh.
You know, when we're used to being on the Beltway and driving fast roads all the time, Hawaii has so many pedestrians. And you just have to take a breath and let them cross and wave them on. And you'll, there are a lot of situations where you'll have to just watch out for people who stop when you think they wouldn't, because you can't see the pedestrian that they see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard too that like everyone lets everyone in.
They do.
You don't cut people off. Like if somebody's wanting to get in, they're going to get in because everybody will let them in.
And honking, I have a real aversion to honking now. Like, it makes me mad when people honk.
It's probably like
because you just need to chill out.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know. So there's only a few big roads though, right? The interstates are like 1, 2, 3 or something like that.
Yep, H1, H2, and H3.
Okay.
So H1 goes east to west. H2 goes kind of north to south up toward Mililani, toward Schofield Barracks. And then H3 goes over toward the Marine Corps base in Kaneohe.
Perfect. Are they navigable, or do they get bottlenecked? Like, what's your opinion of like how well managed they are?
Yeah, so H3 is generally pretty clear. You know, we lived in Kailua, and my husband commuted to Hickam, and that was a pretty reliable 30-minute commute. And that's a longer distance, but the road was fast.
Cool.
Then H2, same thing. Where you get a bottleneck is at the junction of H2 and H1.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So just kind of
that's right near Pearl Harbor. Yes, like yep. Okay.
Yeah, and then H1. You know, there are a lot of people commuting to and from. Commuting in from the west side in the mornings. So that is a lot of traffic. So trying to go from Eva Beach or Kapolei all the way into downtown is really hard. And it is more of like a Southern California or DC kind of commute.
I've heard that you can get a kayak and go across the harbor quicker. It's kind of like the same thing in DC, getting across the river to DC. You can almost just get a kayak and go across.
Yeah, I mean, people will, use some pretty, crazy strategies, like
paddleboard
there.
Uniform.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Go early, shower at the gym. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, so, so when you got there, when you first arrived, you said you lived in Kailua. Did you live in Kailua the whole time?
I did. We rented it first, and then we bought a house when I realized, like, oh, duh, I should have done this 2 years ago.
Right. I feel like a lot of people do that, too. And usually it's too late. They're already headed back by that point. Or they buy one and then leave it as a rental.
Yeah. It is hard to get your head around buying, first of all, sight unseen. I really do have a lot of people who buy their homes sight unseen. Mm-hmm. And we do really great hands-on video tours. We use Skype and FaceTime to video tour people through properties. And I mean, I think we do it really well. Like, I like showing houses that way because I can focus somebody's attention. Like, look, this is the countertop.
Right.
Look, these are the cabinets. I see some nicks here and there.
Yeah.
This is what the floor is, and you can record it, right? So you can watch it back and, whereas if you walk into a space, you're kind of overwhelmed by the whole space.
It almost makes you want to do that and see that. Like, even if, like, for a house that you see here, you almost want to have that to fall back on because you always go home later and you're like, what did that closet look like or whatever. So, yeah, and this also, too, is a good point, is that it's not like a marketing video for the listing. Like, you need to find an agent that has, that is working for you, that can go through and actually point out all of the things to consider. Perk is if you find a military-affiliated agent, and extra perk if you use Millie's Agent Hero Network, because we have tons of really fantastic agents, just like Allison, who are there to be able to help you guys. They are intimately aware of the VA loan process and intricacies of that, so they can help you maximize that benefit. Even if you own a home somewhere else, sometimes it's even doable to, do it. It's crazy, but you need somebody that, like, knows their stuff backwards and forwards. And renting is not uncommon, but like Allison mentioned, it might be a little trickier. and you might find yourself in temporary lodging for a minute.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure. Well, that brings up another point too, actually, the temporary lodging. As soon as you find out that you have orders, like start calling about temporary lodging. So a lot of people stay, well, there's the MWR hotel, the Halikoa, right? So if you can get a spot there, great.
Do they
Fort
have
Island.
to prioritize for folks that are PCSing, or do they keep them out? Because that's a vacation spot too.
I don't think so. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say I less commonly have folks that are staying there. It's usually vacationing.
Yeah.
But Fort Island, the Navy Lodge at Fort Island, very popular. You can take your pets, get a reservation. A lot of people stay at hotels in Waikiki. So, just take that. Yes, it's hard to stay in a hotel room for, 30 days or whatever. Right, exactly. Just enjoy it, right? Enjoy being in Waikiki.
Yeah.
Because it's a one-time experience, right?
Yeah.
And then there are a couple of hotels near the airport that cater to military and, are just good kind of central places close to Pearl Harbor, Hickam. So
good. That's great to know.
Yeah.
So what are like the up and coming sort of areas? Like, is there anywhere that's like the hot place, especially for someone in the military that's coming with the intention of either, selling the house in a couple of years to maybe have that as an investment property, or, keep it as a rental? I don't know. What are some like highlights that you would like to point out to people?
Yeah, I'd say as far as picking areas go, the biggest limitation is budget. So you can go online and you can see all these great homes and this and that, but really talk to a realtor and just narrow. You're going to be limited based on your budget unless you have $5 million to spend. Like everybody is limited based on their budget.
Right.
So just, and you're going to be, limited based on your needs. If you've got 3 kids, then you're not going to live in a Waikiki condo. So there are going to be typical profiles, of buyers that will fit.
So talk to me just a little bit about the schools. What can people expect? What are some things to look out for and prepare yourself for when looking at schools for kids?
Yeah. So the public schools vary tremendously island-wide. And I'd say some people are happy with the schools, some people are not happy with the schools, and that's everywhere. It really comes down to taking a look at the individual school. I will say, more than anywhere else I've lived, I don't have clients who are like, I've got to be in this school district. It usually becomes a conversation between public, private, online school, homeschool. So those are all options in Hawaii. There are tons of homeschool groups. The school system does have an online option. There is a huge variety of private schools and then the public schools. Like I said, if I had to do it over again, my kids did go to private school there. I had to do it over again, then I probably would have been okay with some of the public schools. So, don't get too afraid of what you hear. There are a lot of misconceptions. There are a lot of old stereotypes.
Right.
And, for example, I have right now, my kids are 17 and 14. And we moved to Hawaii when my daughter was in 3rd grade and my son was in 6th grade. And I asked my kids at one point, like, do you, ever feel like uncomfortable? Do you ever feel like people are mean to you because you're not from here or anything like that? And my son is like, never.
Aww.
Like he, goes out in town and plays basketball at the community center. Like he said, people are nicer here than they were in the DC area. So very DC.
No judgment.
Right.
But yeah, that is definitely something that you hear a lot, unfortunately, about Hawaii. I think it's just so many unknowns, and people have a hard time interpreting some of the test scores in great schools. And once again, understanding that you can't compare apples to apples across the board. Like an 8 in DC is very different from an 8 in North Carolina, is very different from an 8 in Hawaii for a variety of reasons. There are language barriers. There are all kinds of things that are kind of mixed all up into the scenario and the ecosystem there that are just kind of hard to get an understanding of from a static number on a piece of paper. So call the schools. call around, you guys. We have a great toolkit. I'm going to plug it again. It's for free over on the website. I'll drop a link later. That'll give you sort of a chat, like an assessment for your child. You can do it yourself. You can have a teacher that's teaching your children right now help you fill that out to try to assess like what your kids' needs are, their learning styles, what kind of environment they thrive in, things like that. And then you can then use the interview sheet that we provided, call the school, ask them these questions, ask for, teacher recommended, ask the teachers, like, hey, do you enjoy working here? Things like that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can do to kind of feel out the situation, but don't let stereotypes guide your decision making, and be careful when you ask in groups, because everyone has an experience and sometimes they're not all great. So just be wary of that. Yeah.
And I think just, a lot of happiness in Hawaii is the mindset with which you walk into the situation.
For sure.
I'm a very like control freaky type A kind of person, right? And I had to.
You said you're a 1, right? Is that what you landed? Okay, sorry. Enneagram. If you guys don't know it, we'll chat later. But get it.
But I also grew up in the Midwest, and I don't know. I'll say kindness and manners and humility are big values for me. So, walking into an unfamiliar situation as a learner, right, and with humility gets you so far in Hawaii. You can't. People live so close together that you really can't worry about what everybody else is doing. Mm-hmm. It's really a live and let live kind of place. You're going to find a neighbor who's got 423 flower pots in their front yard, and you're like, why? Or they park on their grass, and, for your military mind, that's like,
oh, funny. Yeah.
Why would they do that? That's so wrong. You just can't, do your thing. Be nice to people. Don't walk in like you own the place.
Right.
Walk in like you're going to
visiting. I mean, as long, for the most part, we're passing through. So treat their island with respect, and go in open-minded. I think it's a fantastic place to go, and a fantastic experiences for your family to have. Like, oh my God, I have friends that are there that they live in bathing suits. And flip-flops, and they have baby powder in their car for the sand to get off their feet, and they can just go hike up some glorious mountain and take a selfie, come down, whatever. And I'm just like, aw.
Yeah.
I now regret not going years ago, but
and people people ask me sometimes, well, where do the military people live? The military people live all over,
everywhere.
It's island wide, and the military has such a tie to the island for such a long period of time. So many people that live there or are from there have been in the military. It's there isn't a military neighborhood. There isn't a us versus them. It is approaching people with kindness and respect, and enjoying, just going in with the right mindset. You'll learn so much. You'll have the neighbor who shares their avocados while you share your bananas, and you get to be outside all the time, which is huge for me. I loved all of that. If you want people who are healthy, want to live a simple life, I mean, that is so easy to do. I'd say the people who have a hard time in Hawaii, first of all, have a hard time getting over their rules. About what they should do and what other people should do. People who are not very outdoorsy. I mean, if you want to sit inside and value your personal belongings and your personal space, like your beautiful home, well, that's
be real. Yeah.
I mean, we're a culture of consumerism, right?
And excess and luxury and no, I could see that. This would be a good time to kind of shed some of that and try a little minimalist living. Leave some stuff here. Leave your literal baggage here and just go be a beach bum. I would, sign me up. And I'm not a sun worshiper at all. I can't do the sun, but I think I would try it. Just have an umbrella that I carry around.
Well, yeah. I mean, my dermatologist plasters herself every day, and SPF 80 and goes to the beach, right?
So I had a random question that popped into my mind. Commissary and groceries and stuff. So I've heard a whiff of, you definitely want to take advantage of the commissary because the price of stuff just being imported into the island can get quite high. And I've also heard that the commissaries down there are like off the chain. Is this true?
Yeah, I shopped mostly at the Kaneohe commissary.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, definitely shop at the commissary for all of your staples, anything that's packaged, like, packaged goods definitely are expensive at local grocery stores, like they have to be shipped in. It's a great opportunity to eat fresh. There are tons of farmers markets, a lot of locally produced, fruits and vegetables. So eat that stuff. Join Costco because you're going to want like fresh berries from California. Like you just got to join Costco for that stuff. Funny. It was a combination of shopping.
Okay.
I shopped at the commissary, but I didn't really like some of the produce stuff if it was not local produce.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And
I use the farmers markets.
And you guys, there's like a Target and,
yeah.
A
couple of Targets, a couple of Costco's.
There's tons of like luxury shopping too.
A couple of Whole Foods. Yeah. No Trader Joe's. That was the thing. Like when we leave the island, people bring back like a suitcase of Trader Joe's for all their friends.
That's funny. And then also you have such a cool opportunity to travel. Like, aren't the little island hopper flights like super cheap and you can just go and like explore all the different islands?
Yeah. And you would be surprised how different they are.
Aww.
Yeah. So they are really adventures. And when we went on vacation, then we would go places that were not like beaches.
Oh, funny. Yeah. Okay. Like the mountains and stuff. Yeah. That's awesome. But you could still see the water, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
So I think the things that I crave, when living in Hawaii, the things I crave are like museums and like live entertainment, like the theater or a band that's not a Hawaiian band.
Yeah. Not like the luau stuff. Oh, that's interesting. Well, but you can get that anytime. So embrace the local. Do you have any hidden gems or things that you wish you had known before you'd gotten there that you haven't already shared?
Hidden gems. I mean, there are just hikes everywhere. I love to hike. So, you can hike every darn day. Something that I didn't really realize, I guess it seems kind of obvious now, is that there are so many people in transition, or new to Hawaii, that are coming, I mean, for all kinds of reasons, not just military, students or people who came from, get a lot of people from California.
Nomads, probably.
A lot of people who work remotely, stuff like that. So that people are very open to meeting people because a lot of people are in transition. So I found that it was so much easier to meet people in Hawaii than like the DC area where everybody's busy and they're kind of in their rat race, right?
That's a great comparison. Yeah. And plus you're outside a lot more too, I'm sure. That helps. Instead of like driving into your garage and shutting the door and that being the limit of your neighborhood experience, you have no choice because your confinement space is so small that it pushes you out. So that's great.
And take time to talk to people. Like I'll say a lot of things in Hawaii are not, superbly organized and like you're not going to go on the website and find all the information you need to know.
Yeah.
So keep talking to people, keep asking. Like if you're looking for a gymnastics studio for your kid, tell everybody you meet, hey, what do you know about gymnastics studios? And people will help you. People will, you just have to keep putting it out there.
Yeah.
And talking to people.
That's fantastic. So it's been like beach week. I did a San Diego chat yesterday with Aaron, and now I'm talking about Hawaii, and I'm depressed here in North Carolina. It's gray and cold and rainy, so I don't know what I'm going to do about that. This was really fun. You guys, if anybody joined us live, leave your questions. Allison's going to be tracking this comment thread. She's happy. I'm volunteering you. She's happy too.
Yeah.
to help share some expertise and answer questions. I know Christy had a question last week about driver's licenses and like transferring that kind of stuff. And thank you for answering that, Allison. That was super helpful.
Yeah, kind of helpful. It was an odd situation.
It's helpful to know that somebody else has done it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question about volleyball clubs for 13-year-olds. So, okay, we haven't touched on sports for kids. Like, are there any typical sports available there?
Yeah, so sports through school, sports through community events, like there's I-9 there. I don't know if everybody's heard of that, but it's like my son played flag football through I-9.
Okay.
There's like pony baseball there. Volleyball is very popular on the island, so tons of options for volleyball, both like beach volleyball and court volleyball. Yes, I'd say baseball is a very popular sport, volleyball. My kids got into Hawaiian canoe paddling.
Oh my
so
God.
yeah,
That's
6-man canoes. Yeah, so fun.
Oh, that's really neat. Okay, we have to talk about surfing, and then we probably need to wrap it up. So, let's say my husband pretends like he surfs, has a surfboard. There's a very specific etiquette. Is there?
Yeah, there
that are more
go to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say take some lessons. Try it out. Go with people who will teach you, and then ask them for recommendations on venturing on your own. Because here's another Hawaii tip. This is not Disneyland, people. There are no fences. There are not a lot of rules. There are not lifeguards everywhere.
Yeah.
There are not people who are gonna there are signs. They are regularly ignored.
Yeah.
But don't expect there to be a sign telling you where not to go and that you're gonna, fall off a cliff.
That's a great tip. Yeah.
So take it seriously. The ocean is powerful.
Yeah, that's great. I was in San Diego with my cousin last summer, and she was pointing out some of the beaches where, like, every day they used to go and sit and watch people get slammed on the rocks because people go out, take little selfies on a rock and not understand how like the rogue waves come in like a lot. And get slammed. I'm sure it's very similar out there. So just know where you are, know your limitations. Respect it. Call back to all the Point Break movies and everything.
I do have a funny story though. Like when we first moved to Hawaii, we decided we wanted to go out and get an ocean kayak. And like I said, we had kids who were like 3rd grade and 6th grade. And my husband went to buy like a used kayak from a store. And, he starts asking about life jackets, and, the guy looks at him kind of cross-eyed, like your kids can't swim.
Right.
Like,
they weren't born in the water. Like, what's wrong with you?
Like, it's natural selection here, buddy. Yeah. So.
That's so true. Okay. So make sure you're up to speed on your swimming lessons.
Yeah. And know that there's some lax behavior, that you might not be used to.
Oh,
so,
another
awesome woman tip I'm gonna say is that, we often get wrapped up in body image and going to the beach and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. Chill out.
Aww.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I love that.
You think you don't have a bikini body? You do. Don't worry about it.
You have a body that can wear a bikini, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love
size 4, size 42 bikini.
Matters not.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What a great note to end on. I love that. I'm headed to Tampa next week, and we're supposed to be like by the pool. I'm like, oh God. You're right. I have a body that fits in a bikini. Who cares?
Exactly. No worries.
That's awesome. No worries. Allison, thank you so much for joining us today. And you guys, if y'all have extra questions or more you want to chat about, or other installations you want to chat about that Allison has been to, we're happy to bring her back. She's obligated.
And I love talking about it. So
she's definitely a go-to resource. So you can tap into folks like her. And we also have MILLIE Scouts on the island that you guys could tap into as well if you are interested in renting a property. So we want to just point you to the right resources, make sure you're finding folks that you can trust and rely on. on a big move. So no matter where you're coming from, that's a big move because it's across an ocean. So great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Embrace it. Embrace those orders to Hawaii.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So you guys, we are I think we're done for the week for the Bayside Chats. I will be back next week. Be sure to check the events tab over on the side of the group to just kind of peruse some of the base chats that we have upcoming. I know we have a ton that we're super excited about. We're trying to branch out and find duty stations that you guys are asking about in the comments. So post your questions. Let me know what you want to hear about, where you're headed to, and what an expert you'd like us to bring in. If there's a topic area, I am all ears. So let us know if you'd like to volunteer for a Bayside Chat. Let me know that as well. I'm super excited. I think in the next week or so, we'll have some Oconus duty stations to bring on. So we're gonna play with the time zones and see if we can make that happen. But so stay tuned. Invite your friends. The more the merrier. We would love to share this far and wide. So until then, you guys have a great week and be sure to stay plugged in. Thanks. Bye, everybody.